In the heart of a universe where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds and planets floated like forgotten dreams, there existed an empire unlike any other. The realm of Zithara was ruled by beings so breathtakingly beautiful that they seemed to embody perfection itself. Their skin glowed with hues no artist could replicate, shifting between silver and gold under the twin suns of their home world, and their eyes held galaxies within them, swirling with ancient wisdom and untold secrets. At the pinnacle of this celestial hierarchy stood Queen Lysira, known across galaxies as the Alien Queen. She was not merely regal but divine in her presence, commanding awe from every being who dared lay eyes upon her. Her voice carried the weight of centuries, yet it resonated with a melody so enchanting that even hardened warriors would kneel at its sound. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, cascading down her back in waves that seemed alive, responding to her emotions. Around her neck hung a pendant forged from the core of a dying star, said to house immense power beyond mortal comprehension. Yet for all her splendor, Queen Lysira remained enigmatic, a figure shrouded in mystery despite being the center of countless legends. Her people revered her not just for her beauty but for her intellect, which surpassed even the most advanced artificial intelligences created by neighboring civilizations. She governed with grace and precision, ensuring peace among warring factions while advancing her empire's technology light years ahead of others. But beneath her poised exterior lay a loneliness few could understand. As queen, she bore the burden of leadership alone, surrounded by admirers who feared her more than they loved her. The throne room where she conducted affairs of state mirrored her grandeur. Towering crystalline walls refracted light into rainbows that danced across the chamber, and a massive obsidian dais loomed above everything, elevating her seat of power high enough to make visitors crane their necks in wonderment. Here, ambassadors from distant worlds came to plead alliances or offer tributes, hoping to earn favor from the legendary ruler. Yet none had ever truly captured her attention, or her heart. It was during one such diplomatic gathering that fate intervened in ways no one could have predicted. A delegation from Earth had arrived aboard a sleek spacecraft bearing gifts of art, music, and knowledge harvested over millennia of human history. Among them stood Captain Elias Drake, a man whose demeanor contrasted sharply with the opulence surrounding him. He wore simple attire compared to the ornate robes of his peers, his face unadorned by jewelry or makeup. His dark eyes scanned the room with quiet curiosity, betraying neither fear nor arrogance as he stepped forward when called upon. Lysira watched him closely, intrigued by the subtle differences setting him apart from those around him. While others spoke with calculated eloquence, Elias's words were direct and heartfelt, tinged with humor that brought rare smiles to the faces of her courtiers. There was something disarmingly genuine about him, a vulnerability masked by strength that resonated deeply within her. For the first time in centuries, she felt a flicker of interest, not born out of duty or strategy, but pure fascination. As the assembly concluded and delegates departed, Lysira found herself lingering on thoughts of the human captain long after he'd left the hall. It wasn't just his appearance or mannerisms that captivated her, it was the way he carried himself, with humility tempered by resilience, a trait she recognized but hadn't encountered in eons. That night, unable to shake the image of his earnest expression from her mind, she summoned her advisors to inquire further about humanity and its customs, particularly those surrounding relationships and bonds. Unbeknownst to anyone else, a seed had been planted in the alien queen's consciousness, a desire both foreign and exhilarating. Though marriage was largely ceremonial among her kind, reserved for political unions rather than personal affection, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward this man from another world. And so, under the watchful gaze of her twin sons, Queen Lysira began contemplating a decision that would ripple through galaxies and alter destinies forever. That evening, Queen Lysira summoned Elias Drake to her private chambers, a request that sent ripples of unease through the Earth delegation. None of them understood why the formidable alien ruler had taken such an interest in their captain, especially since diplomatic discussions had ended hours ago. Still, Elias accepted without hesitation, his calm demeanor masking the storm of questions brewing inside him. As he walked through the shimmering corridors of the palace, flanked by silent guards whose armor gleamed like liquid mercury, he couldn't help but marvel at the surreal beauty surrounding him. Every step echoed faintly against crystalline floors, and the air carried a faint hum that seemed almost alive. When he entered the chamber, Elias froze momentarily, overwhelmed by what awaited him. Unlike the imposing grandeur of the throne room, this space radiated intimacy. Walls made of translucent material pulsed softly with light, mimicking the rhythm of a heartbeat. In the center stood Queen Lysira, her ethereal form bathed in an otherworldly glow. She dismissed her attendants with a wave of her hand, leaving them alone in a silence so profound it felt tangible. For several moments, neither spoke. Instead, she studied him intently, her galaxy-like eyes scanning every detail of his face as though trying to memorize it. "You intrigue me," she finally whispered, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed to vibrate through his very bones. "You carry yourself differently from others I've met." Her tone wasn't accusatory but curious, laced with an intensity that made Elias shift uncomfortably. He bowed slightly, unsure how to respond. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. "I am honored by your attention, though I confess I do not know what has drawn it." A flicker of amusement crossed her features, and she tilted her head slightly, as if considering his words. "Honesty suits you," she said, taking a step closer. The movement was deliberate, measured, yet undeniably magnetic. Elias swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her presence pressing down on him. She moved like poetry, each gesture flowing seamlessly into the next, until she was close enough for him to see the intricate patterns swirling in her iridescent eyes. "Tell me about your world," she continued, her voice softer now, almost hypnotic. "About love." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Elias blinked, caught off guard by the question. Love. Of all things, why would this regal being care about something so human, so fragile? He hesitated before answering, choosing his words carefully. "Love is complicated," he admitted. "It can bring joy and pain in equal measure. It binds us together, gives purpose to our lives, yet it also exposes our vulnerabilities." Lysira listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished speaking, she reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his cheek. The touch sent a jolt through him, electric and warm, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. "Vulnerability," she murmured, as though tasting the word. "To expose oneself willingly, that is courage." Her gaze locked onto his, unwavering and piercing. "And you, Elias Drake, are you courageous?" Her question hung suspended, laden with implications he couldn't fully grasp. Before he could respond, she stepped back, breaking the spell momentarily. "Do you wish to leave?" she asked, her tone deceptively casual. But there was no mistaking the challenge beneath her words. Leaving meant returning to safety, to familiarity, but staying meant stepping deeper into the unknown, into a connection he barely understood but already felt tethered to. Elias exhaled slowly, his mind racing. Part of him wanted nothing more than to retreat, to escape the overwhelming intensity of this encounter. Yet another part, a stronger, quieter part, urged him to stay, to trust whatever strange force had brought him here. "No," he said finally, his voice firm despite the uncertainty gnawing at him. "I don't wish to leave." Something shifted in Lysira's expression then, a flicker of satisfaction or perhaps relief. She nodded once, her lips curving into the faintest hint of a smile. "Good," she whispered. Then, without warning, she leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Because I must marry you." The words hit him like a supernova, exploding through his senses and leaving him reeling. Marry her? The alien queen? The thought was absurd, impossible, yet undeniably real as she pulled away to gauge his reaction. For a moment, Elias struggled to find his voice, his mind grappling with the enormity of what she'd just said. "Why?" he managed to choke out, his tone incredulous. Her answer came swiftly, delivered with the same certainty that defined everything about her. "Because you are different. Because you make me feel alive." As the realization settled over him, Elias realized he was standing at a crossroads, faced with a choice that would redefine not only his life but potentially the fate of two worlds. And though fear whispered in the corners of his mind, something far stronger urged him forward, to embrace the unknown, no matter where it might lead. In the days following their extraordinary encounter, whispers of Queen Lysira's intentions rippled through the vast halls of her palace, intertwining with the soft hum of energy coursing through crystalline walls. Courtiers exchanged glances filled with disbelief and envy, their elegant gestures tinged with nervousness as they speculated about the unprecedented union. The notion of their sovereign marrying a mere human, an outsider from a primitive planet, was both scandalous and thrilling. Some viewed it as a strategic move to forge alliances with Earth, while others saw it as an unfathomable folly that could destabilize the delicate balance of intergalactic politics. For Elias, the transition from visitor to potential consort proved dizzying. Each morning, he awoke in quarters far grander than anything he'd known, yet starkly alien in design. The bed beneath him seemed to float, supported by invisible forces, and the walls shimmered with shifting colors that mimicked auroras. Servants attended to his needs with reverent silence, their movements precise and practiced, making him feel simultaneously pampered and profoundly isolated. Despite their efficiency, Elias couldn't shake the sensation of being an intruder in a world not his own. His interactions with Lysira grew more frequent, each meeting layered with complex emotions. During these encounters, she revealed facets of herself previously hidden behind her regal facade. She shared tales of her ascension to the throne, the burdens of solitude that accompanied power, and her yearning for connection beyond the sterile confines of duty. Yet, alongside her openness lingered an air of detachment, a reminder of the chasm between them, not just of species, but of experience and expectation. Elias grappled with his own feelings, oscillating between awe and apprehension. There were moments when her beauty and charisma left him breathless, drawing him closer to accepting her proposal. Other times, doubts clouded his mind, whispering fears of inadequacy and exploitation. Could he truly bridge the gap between their worlds? Was he merely a pawn in a cosmic game, or did Lysira genuinely seek companionship? Simultaneously, news of their impending union reached Earth, sparking debates among global leaders and citizens alike. Public opinion swayed wildly between admiration and skepticism. Some hailed Elias as a hero forging ties with a superior civilization, while others condemned him as a traitor abandoning humanity for personal gain. The media frenzy painted conflicting portraits of him, brave pioneer versus reckless opportunist, further complicating his internal struggle. Amidst this turmoil, Elias sought solace in exploring the palace grounds. He wandered through gardens where plants emitted bioluminescent glows, casting eerie shadows that danced across pathways lined with gemstone tiles. Here, amidst nature engineered to perfection, he found fleeting peace. It was during one such stroll that he stumbled upon a secluded courtyard housing a fountain carved from meteorite stone. Water cascaded down its sides, reflecting prismatic lights that seemed almost sentient. Sitting beside the fountain, Elias allowed himself to reflect on the whirlwind events. His thoughts drifted back to Earth, to familiar skies, comforting scents, and the simplicity of human connections. He wondered if he could ever fully belong here, among beings whose lifespans stretched into centuries and whose technologies defied imagination. Would marrying Lysira mean forsaking everything he'd ever known? Just as doubt threatened to overwhelm him, a gentle breeze stirred, carrying with it a familiar melody. Turning, he saw Lysira approaching, her presence commanding yet softened by vulnerability. She joined him silently, her gaze fixed on the dancing waters. For a while, neither spoke, content in shared silence. "You seem troubled," she said eventually, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I am," he admitted. Everything, it's so much. I'm trying to understand, to adapt, but sometimes it feels like I'm drowning." Lysira nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Change is never easy, especially when thrust upon us suddenly." She paused, then added, "But remember, Elias, I chose you not because you fit perfectly into my world, but because you bring something unique to it. Something precious." Her words resonated deeply, stirring hope amidst his uncertainties. Perhaps, Elias mused, their differences weren't insurmountable barriers but bridges waiting to be built. Together, they sat watching the water play with light, two beings bound by destiny yet separated by galaxies, contemplating futures intertwined in ways neither fully understood. As days turned into weeks, the preparations for the royal wedding became a spectacle that transcended planetary boundaries, captivating audiences across the cosmos. On Zythera, artisans worked tirelessly, crafting garments and adornments imbued with the essence of stars and nebulae. The gown designed for Queen Lysira shimmered with threads spun from captured moonlight, each stitch infused with spells of eternal union. For Elias, tailors fashioned attire blending Earth's traditional elegance with Zytheran innovation, his suit woven from fibers that adapted to his emotions, glowing subtly in hues reflecting his mood. Meanwhile, Diplomats from myriad worlds converged on Zythera, eager to witness this historic alliance. Ships descended from the heavens, their arrivals announced by trails of stardust that painted the skies in ephemeral masterpieces. Each delegate brought gifts symbolizing unity and prosperity, from artifacts of ancient civilizations to seeds of plants that thrived in impossible conditions. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, a symphony of cultures merging under the twin suns. Back on Earth, reactions remained polarized yet undeniably passionate. Protesters gathered outside government buildings, chanting slogans decrying Elias's decision as betrayal. Conversely, supporters organized rallies celebrating the potential benefits of such a union, envisioning advancements in technology and medicine stemming from interstellar cooperation. Media coverage reached fever pitch, dissecting every aspect of the couple's relationship, speculating endlessly about motivations and outcomes. Throughout this whirlwind, Elias and Lysira navigated their roles with cautious optimism. They spent evenings discussing governance styles and cultural nuances, learning from each other's perspectives. Lysira introduced Elias to the Council of Elders, beings whose wisdom spanned millennia, teaching him the intricacies of ruling a galactic empire. In turn, Elias shared stories of Earth's history, highlighting moments of resilience and creativity that shaped humanity. Yet beneath the surface of these productive exchanges simmered tensions. Whispers of dissent within the royal court grew louder, fueled by those who viewed the marriage as a threat to Zytheran purity and dominance. Secret meetings convened in shadowy corners, plotting strategies to undermine the union before it solidified. Elias sensed the undercurrents of hostility, his instincts honed by years of military service alerting him to unseen dangers. One evening, as they strolled through the illuminated gardens, Lysira halted abruptly, her gaze distant. "There are those who oppose us," she confessed, her voice tinged with sorrow. "They fear change, seeing our bond as weakness rather than strength." Elias took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin despite the cool night air. "Change often breeds fear," he replied gently. "But love, that's a force stronger than any opposition." Her eyes softened, gratitude mingling with resolve. "Then let us face whatever comes together," she declared, squeezing his hand firmly. "United, we can overcome." Their determination fortified, they returned to planning, weaving elements from both their worlds into the ceremony. Traditional Earth vows would blend with Zytheran rituals involving the exchange of star fragments, symbolizing shared destinies etched into the fabric of the universe. Music composed collaboratively by terrestrial and extraterrestrial artists promised to harmonize melodies from countless worlds, creating a soundscape echoing universal themes of love and hope. As the day of the wedding approached, excitement blended with trepidation. Decorations transformed the grand hall into a celestial tapestry, where holographic constellations danced above guests seated amidst flora from diverse planets. Security measures tightened, guarding against threats hinted at by intercepted communications suggesting sabotage attempts. On the eve of the ceremony, Elias stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city, its lights twinkling like distant stars. Below, crowds gathered, their cheers rising like tidal waves. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing heavily yet buoyed by the knowledge that he wasn't facing it alone. Turning, he saw Lysira approaching, her silhouette framed by the luminous backdrop. She smiled, a gesture imbued with promise and fortitude. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new chapter, not just for them, but for countless beings watching with bated breath. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would meet them side by side, hearts entwined in a dance as old as the cosmos themselves. The morning of the wedding dawned with an ethereal calm, as if the universe itself paused to witness the union of two worlds. Twin suns rose in perfect alignment, casting a golden glow over Zythera's capital city. The air was thick with anticipation, and even the stars seemed brighter, their light refracting through the crystalline atmosphere like a celestial blessing. In the royal palace, preparations reached a fever pitch. Servants moved with practiced precision, arranging final touches to the grand hall where the ceremony would take place. Petals from bioluminescent flowers floated gently in the air, carried by unseen currents that swirled around the chamber. Elias stood before a mirror in his quarters, adjusting the suit tailored for him, a blend of Earth's elegance and Zytheran ingenuity. The fabric shimmered faintly, responding to his emotions with subtle shifts in color. His hands trembled slightly as he fastened the ceremonial sash adorned with symbols representing unity and eternity. This wasn't just a marriage, It was a bridge between galaxies, a promise etched into the fabric of existence. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his chest. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Turning, he saw one of Lysira's advisors, a being whose translucent skin revealed veins pulsing with starlight. "It is time," the advisor said, bowing low. Elias nodded, feeling the gravity of those two simple words. As he followed the advisor through the labyrinthine corridors, he couldn't help but marvel at how far he'd come, from a humble captain navigating the stars to standing on the precipice of destiny. Yet, doubt lingered like a shadow at the edge of his mind. Was he ready for this? Could he truly be the partner Lysira needed? In her chambers, Lysira prepared in solitude, her reflection staring back at her from a pool of liquid silver. The gown she wore seemed alive, its threads weaving patterns of constellations across her body. Her pendant, the fragment of a dying star, rested against her collarbone, glowing softly as though resonating with her heartbeat. She closed her eyes, recalling the countless centuries she had ruled alone, her heart encased in ice until the moment Elias walked into her life. Now, that ice melted, leaving behind vulnerability she hadn't known she craved. Her attendants entered silently, offering last-minute adjustments to her attire. One held out a delicate circlet embedded with shards of meteorite, each piece symbolizing the interconnectedness of all things. As they placed it upon her head, Lysira felt a pang of fear, not for herself, but for the man who had dared to step into her world. What if he regretted this choice? What if the pressures of her realm crushed the humanity she cherished so deeply within him? The grand hall buzzed with energy as dignitaries and delegates from across the cosmos filled the space. Beings of every shape and size mingled, their conversations a symphony of languages translated seamlessly by advanced technology. At the center of the room stood an altar formed from a single shard of obsidian, its surface smooth and reflective. Above it hung a holographic projection of the galaxy, slowly rotating to display the vastness of the universe they sought to unite. When the doors opened, all heads turned as Elias entered first, escorted by members of the Council of Elders. His presence commanded attention, not because of regality but because of the quiet strength radiating from him. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some admiring, others skeptical. Then came Lysira, her entrance accompanied by a swell of music that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of reality. Gasps echoed as she glided forward, her beauty transcendent, her gaze fixed solely on Elias. As they met at the altar, the room fell silent. For a moment, there was only them, surrounded by infinite possibilities. The officiant, an ancient being whose voice carried the resonance of creation, began the ceremony, speaking words older than time itself. Vows were exchanged, promises made not just to each other but to the countless lives watching from afar. When Elias spoke, his voice trembled yet remained resolute. "I choose you," he said, looking into Lysira's swirling eyes. "Not because I must, but because I want to walk this path beside you." Tears glistened in Lysira's eyes as she responded, her voice melodic yet filled with raw emotion. "I bind my fate to yours, Elias Drake, knowing no force could have kept us apart." With those words, they exchanged tokens of their commitment, a fragment of stardust for Lysira and a vial of ocean water from Earth for Elias, representing the merging of their worlds. Just as the officiant declared them united, a sudden disturbance shattered the serenity. Alarms blared, and the ground beneath them quaked violently. A section of the ceiling collapsed, revealing a fleet of ships descending rapidly, their hulls marked with insignias unfamiliar to most. Chaos erupted as guards rushed to protect the newlyweds, while guests scrambled for cover. Through the dust and debris, figures emerged, rebels clad in dark armor, their leader stepping forward with a sneer. "You think love can conquer all?" the rebel leader spat, raising a weapon aimed directly at Elias. "This union threatens everything we hold sacred." Lysira stepped instinctively in front of Elias, her pendant flaring with blinding light. "You underestimate the power of connection," she declared, her voice unwavering despite the danger. "And you will not succeed." Before anyone could react further, the ship outside unleashed a pulse of energy that destabilized the entire structure. Cracks spread across the walls, and the holographic galaxy above flickered ominously. Amidst the pandemonium, Elias grabbed Lysira's hand, pulling her toward an exit. "We need to get out of here," he shouted, his military instincts kicking in. Together, they fled through crumbling corridors, pursued by rebels determined to prevent the Union at any cost. Behind them, explosions rocked the palace, sending shards of crystal raining down like deadly rain. Their escape route led them to the gardens, now ablaze with fiery blooms ignited by falling debris. Every step tested their resolve, forcing them to rely on each other in ways neither had anticipated. Reaching the fountain where they had shared quiet moments days earlier, Lysaira stopped abruptly. "We can't keep running," she said, turning to face Elias. Her expression was fierce yet tender. "If we are to survive this, we must fight, not just for ourselves, but for the future we envision." Elias nodded, gripping her hand tighter. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face together, as equals, as partners, as one. The battle ahead promised to test their bond, but it also offered a chance to prove that love, no matter how improbable, could indeed change the course of history. Against all odds, Elias and Lysaira stood united, their bond unshaken by the chaos around them. With courage and quick thinking, they turned the tide, Lysaira wielding the power of her pendant to disable the rebels' weapons, while Elias led a daring counterattack alongside loyal guards. Together, they exposed the rebellion's leader as a rogue faction seeking to exploit intergalactic tensions for personal gain. In the aftermath, peace was restored, and their marriage became a symbol of hope across galaxies. The union of human and alien proved that love could transcend even the deepest divides, inspiring newfound cooperation between worlds. As they looked out over Zithra's shimmering skyline, hand in hand, Elias and Lysaira knew their journey was just beginning, a shared destiny written among the stars.